Hi, I'm Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. Welcome to Faith and Law. Now, let's take a look at this latest trending viral video of pro-Hamas demonstrators ganging up on peaceful TPUSA employees. Oh, goodness. So much hate, so much violence. So, folks, if you've been watching the news at all, you know that these pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist rallies are taking place at universities across the country. So I was wondering, well, is this taking place at my alma mater, Texas A&M University? Do we have professors espousing hate to Jews and to Israel on campuses that I'm familiar with? So I looked up Texas A&M University, put in pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian demonstration. And you know what I found out? I found out that, yeah, those demonstrations are taking place at Texas A&M University, a university founded on the military corps of cadets, you know, men and women who want to be committed to defending freedom against terrorists, against oppressors of freedom and liberty. And you know what else I discovered? I also discovered they have a professor there teaching international studies. This professor, Ms. Sina Karasifahai, she, according to students, has cited the Hamas as a charity organization. Hamas, folks, has been a terrorist organization for almost 2 decades now in the United States. It's been recognized as a terrorist organization. Oh, but she sees it as a charity organization. She also sees it as a, quote, humanitarian group, end quote. This is an organization that is committed in writing for the extermination of all of Israel and the Jews living there. This is a sick professor, and she's still teaching. Last I've heard, she's still teaching at Texas A&M University. And these pro-Hamas, pro-death to Jews and Israel demonstrations are taking place right now at Texas A&M University, along with universities across the country. Folks, here's my encouragement to you. Don't get angry. Don't get frustrated. Pick up the phone and let these universities know, particularly the ones that you attended, let them know that you're not going to put up with this. You're going to stop donating to your alma mater. You're not going to give them 1 penny. And in fact, if you have a young boy or a girl thinking about where to go to college, you can say, and you know what? My son or daughter, they're not going to your university anymore. They're taken off the list because I do not want my son or daughter to be exposed to such bigotry and anti-Semitism from pro-Nazi-like organizations like Hamas and those demonstrating in support of Hamas. Now, do all Muslims in the United States support Hamas, terrorism against Israel and for the extermination of Israel? No, not all do. Unfortunately, I saw a poll recently that showed that the majority of the Muslims living in the United States are pro-Hamas. A poll in Gaza showed that almost 2/3, 64% of the people living in Gaza, they are pro-Hamas. They are supportive of Hamas. They voted for Hamas back in 2006, and nearly 2/3 are still in favor of Hamas governing them, an organization that they know are committed to bloodthirsty killing of Jews. The other 1/3, who do they support? Well, they support the Abbas, the other organization, the pro-Fatah organization that is ruling and dominating over the West Bank. Another organization committed to the extermination of Jews, just not so radically as the Hamas. What this shows us, folks, is that reality is not that we're dealing with a mass of people who want peace. We're dealing with a mass of people that want death and extermination of Israel in terms of the Hamas and the people living there in the Gaza, as well as the Fatah who dominate the West Bank. And we have it here in the United States, massive numbers of college students being prodded on by radical leftist professors committed to the death and annihilation of Israel. We need to take it seriously, folks. This isn't just a few extremists. This is permeating our society, permeating our universities, and we have to look at it exactly for what it is. All rights are a gift from God, and they're to be used for God's glory and to further God's kingdom. We're opening the door for government, under the same guise of health and safety, to be able to control our lives, whether it's in terms of our privacy, our information, where we go, even how we live our lives.
I had been told that if I didn't get the vaccine that I would not be able to continue my education.
31 offices across the country handling over 185 cases in active litigation. This just doesn't come out of thin air.
The Supreme Court of the United States ruled in our favor.
This year, police arrested a Christian man exercising his right to free speech.
Hundreds of parents were at the state capitol today, and they were protesting new guidelines for sex education in public schools.
The world's way, it's to isolate, silence, and destroy.
So you're really seeking to represent the low-profile, overlooked group of people in our communities, but then you also don't charge a cent. And so I want to know why you do that and how that happens.
We do it because I believe that's what Jesus would want us to do. Now, we have struggles of religious freedom in other areas and other ways. And one of those areas is dealing with people of faith in the workplace. We at PEJI are committed to defending employees who are being purged from their jobs simply because of their sincerely held religious beliefs, oftentimes in objection to a controversial vaccine related to COVID. To help talk about this case, I'd now like to bring on our attorney out of our office in Ohio who's handling this case against Cardinal Health, Todd Fichtenberg. Todd, welcome to the program.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So, Todd, tell us about this case.
So we recently filed a case in federal court in the Southern District of Ohio on behalf of a client who was fired for not getting the COVID vaccine. Our client worked in security at a medical company, so he didn't work directly with patients or anything like that. But his immediate supervisor had told him to learn to lead from afar, told him that he could delegate tasks and things like that, even prior to the pandemic. So he was pretty well versed at leading his team, not having to be there. When the pandemic started, he went 100% remote. Then things started to open back up. The company put in place a COVID vaccine mandate, and he shared his religious objection to the vaccine. There were two particular objections that he made. One was to the use of abortifacients in the development of the vaccines. And so, as Christians, we believe that life begins at inception and that every life is valuable. And so murdering of embryos for purposes of research is a religious objection to getting the vaccine. The second main objection is that his body was a temple of the Holy Spirit. Now he made both of these objections to his employers, and they denied his exemption.
So Todd, our client Ryan, did he offer possible ways to work with them, to accommodate their concerns?
Yes. So as I talked about before, he was told to lead from afar and to delegate. And as the company went 100%, or the security department went 100% remote during the pandemic, when they started to go back to work, he said, if I have to go back in person, I would be willing to mask, I'd be willing to test, I'd be willing to social distance. But that was not enough for the company. They said, we need you to get the vaccine, and if you don't, we're going to have to fire you.
Now, Todd, my understanding is that our client Ryan was doing a fine job in the workplace. He wasn't fired because he was incompetent or not doing his job right?
Our client had exemplary reviews. He continued to be praised for his work. He was sought after. In fact, when they wanted him to get the vaccine, they offered him the ability to apply to other positions. That's how much they liked him. But he didn't qualify for those other positions. And so he was unable to get another job within the company, which, as we mentioned before, most of the work he could do was done remotely, and he offered to take other measures to protect others as an accommodation for not getting the vaccine.
Okay, Todd, how do you see this case moving forward?
So this case is in its early stages. You have to do what's called go through the administrative procedure to exhaust your administrative remedies. And we did that. We filed a complaint with the EEOC. The EEOC decided not to go forward with the complaint and instead gave us the right to pursue a suit privately. So it was just filed in October. And so the other side has 60 days from that time to file an answer or other type of pleading. So we're not really sure how we'll go forward. There weren't really attorneys involved at the stage with the EEOC. It was basically the HR of the company responding to the EEOC. So we're hopeful that once attorneys get involved here, that we can get this settled. But if we can't get it settled, we're prepared to take it as far as it needs to go.
Well, Todd, keep up the great work.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Well, folks, we have religious freedom in the workplace being persecuted, people of faith in the workplace being persecuted, but we also see religious persecution taking place in the public square. And help talk about a case matter dealing with this, I'd like to bring on now our Chief Counsel, Kevin Snyder. So, Kevin, I understand that we're involved in a case involving the buffer zone issue and the fact that the buffer zone laws are being used in a very discriminatory manner, hostile to pro-life clinics, and yet very friendly to pro-abortion, pro-baby killing clinics. Is that right?
That's right, Brad. PJI has joined a friend of the court brief that is pending before the U.S. Supreme Court. Westchester County passed a bubble zone law, which makes it illegal to approach within 8 feet of another person for the purpose of engaging in oral protest, education, or counseling when within 100 feet of a reproductive health care facility. To our knowledge, there's never been an instance when this law has been used to protect the activities of a pro-life clinic. It appears to be exclusively used to protect abortion mills.
Now, Kevin, my understanding is we saw something very similar to this in a case that we presently have ongoing in Michigan, right?
TJI is currently representing a man criminally charged in federal court under the Federal Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, also known as the FACE Act. The Department of Justice appears to be engaged in selective prosecution. Despite the many instances of attacks on pro-life clinics, including firebombings, it is suspicious that few, if any, arrests are made. Where are the referrals for prosecution? Does the DOJ actually engage in meaningful investigations of these attacks on pro-life clinics? The answer sadly seems to be that the FACE Act has been weaponized by the feds against citizens who are pro-life rather than the pro-abortion activists who are engaging in violence.
So why does there seem to be a loophole in this law that seems to favor pro-abortion clinics versus pro-life clinics?
Brad, in fact, the text of the law supposedly treats abortion mills and their advocates and pro-life clinics and their supporters equally. The problem is the application of the law. The vast law enforcement and prosecutorial establishment have made a political decision. This massive public security sector is using these types of laws to arrest, prosecute, and persecute pro-life supporters.
So, Kevin, how do you see this case moving forward?
We are hoping that the Supreme Court will grant review of this case and restore equal protection under the law so that those who value the sanctity of life are not targeted because of the content of their views. Brad, if the courts do not rein in law enforcement and prosecutors, the judiciary will have failed us, and we will be facing a growing police state.
Well, Kevin, keep up the great work defending the rights of pro-life clinics to simply have equal treatment, equal protection under the law.
Thank you, Brad.
Well, folks, you may be wondering, what are your rights to be able to share your faith in public places? Well, we've actually got a fantastic resource for free on our website, pji.org. It talks all about your rights to publicly evangelize in public places. Just go to our website, pji.org, and be equipped to share your faith with confidence.
Well, they're in the trenches and they're fighting, and PGI is on the front lines for the battle for freedom and liberty. They've been doing so much to equip pastors across the country and to really fight for the values that have made this country so great. Honored to be supportive of PGI.
We're living in a time when Christians are constantly under assault for their beliefs in the marketplace. And if there's not someone to advocate for them and help them with the legal necessities of defending themselves, they're going to get fired. They have no recourse. Most people don't have the resources to go hire a lawyer. It would deplete everything they own. And most lawyers, quite frankly, across the country don't deal in religious liberty issues.
Well, we're living in some very difficult days in America where basic freedoms and especially religious liberty is under attack. And that's one of the reasons why Pacific Justice Institute is so vitally important to the future of this nation. What a great group of lawyers, first-class, top-rate lawyers who are willing to stand up for freedom and stand up for our American citizens under attack.
Yeah, they can support, they can follow, they can pray. We need more organizations like PJI, and I could tell you that being in the front lines, there's not enough people that are actually in the trenches doing the difficult but tough work, and that's exactly why this organization is so critical.
One of the most incredible things about Pacific Justice Institute is that they do pro bono work. And what does that mean? Well, it means the rest of us have a responsibility. We've got to stand up and provide financial incentives and financial opportunities for these attorneys to get out there and do the fighting. And that's one of the reasons why we have Pacific Justice Institute attorneys on my national radio show, because we want to let people know, hey, there's a need here. These folks are doing very important work, and they're doing very important, successful work as well. And that's why they need our support.
When a Christian is targeted for his or her beliefs, it affects every believer in America. This idea that, well, it didn't happen to me. Well, you're next. And when Pacific Justice Institute takes on a case, it's not just that one individual that they really are representing, because a legal precedent may be established from that will protect 1 million believers who could be in the same position for the exact same issue.
Now, we've talked about our right to be able to share our faith, and the most important part of our faith is the Word of God and what the Word of God says about the issues of the day. So let's take a look at what the Bible says about this concept of unequal treatment. In Proverbs 11:1, it says, "Dishonest scales are an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight." God is not appreciative of double standards. These kinds of laws that favor one group's rights over another group's rights is completely unbiblical. It's in violation of what God values. God is a just God, and as a just God, he appreciates policies, laws, instances where individuals are treated fairly and equally recognized when it comes to their rights and protections under the law. Proverbs 16:11 also supports this point when it says, "Honest weights and scales are the Lord's. all the weights in the bag are his work. In other words, God favors justice. He favors equal treatment, equal protection under the law. And that's what we at PJI are all about, making sure that our fundamental rights given to us by God, recognized in the Constitution as fundamental rights, that they're protected, and that they're protected for everyone, and that people of faith, in particular, should not be treated like second-class citizens, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's on university campuses. Folks, let's not take our rights for granted. Freedom, the ability to share our faith and live our faith equally, fairly, and not to be persecuted, it matters a lot. Not just to PJI, not just to you, but also matters to God. So folks, no matter what the challenge, always, always keep the faith.
My first guest tonight is in the trenches. He's fighting back against the constant assault by the secular left on the rights of religious believers and parents. He's an attorney. He's a tireless champion of religious liberty, and he's founder and president of the Pacific Justice Institute. Please welcome my friend Brad Dacus. Brad, welcome back. We are so happy to have you back with us again. You had a pretty big case this week out on the West Coast, and I want you to tell us what happened out there that we all ought to be happy about.
Oh, yes. It's I tell you, Mike, it was a major case, dealing with a Christian boarding school. Now, this Christian boarding school has been there for over 20 years, helping boys and girls get their schooling and their lives in line, and yet they were attacked. First, the state of California came in and had a raid because of because of an article, a 10-year-old story that appeared in BuzzFeed.
Oh, yeah. I call it Buzzard Feed.
Yes, Buzzard Feed. So that's all they had. They got a judge to give a warrant for a total raid. So you had 16 troops coming in with 2 canine units, more than a dozen social workers, raided the place looking for guns, ammunition, whatever. Didn't find anything. And instead of apologizing, the state of California, the Department of Social Services, said, oh, no, we're going to double down. We're going to file a lawsuit, and we're going to shut you down. So they filed a motion for preliminary injunction to shut them down because they said, you're technically really a community care facility, not really a school, a boarding school. And they know that if they became a community care facility, then they would have to meet the state standard, which has to allow them, forces them to allow the students to engage in full sexual exploration with relationships.
And how old are these kids?
Oh, all the way down to kindergarten. So
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and yet that's the mindset. That's how they run their schools, the state of California. They want to shut down not just this boarding school. They want to shut down, the state of California wants to shut down every single Christian boarding school that does not adopt to their social worldview and values, which goes totally against a Christian biblical worldview perspective.
So it's not about tolerance, it's about intolerance of views that do not subscribe to a more modernistic approach.
Right.
Is that the long-term agenda, that it's not about tolerance, coexistence, that you believe what you want to believe, I believe what I want to believe, we get along, we live in the same community, which has always, to me, been fair. I don't care if other people want to live their lives differently than me. They should have every right to do that.
Right.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about shutting down a view that does not adhere to one point of view.
Well, let me give you an actual case that we had this year. It was in Wisconsin, okay, not California, Wisconsin, Dupere, Wisconsin. They passed an ordinance telling churches that they must comply with public accommodation, meaning that if they if they hire someone, they can't have beliefs or values, say a minister, They can't say, well, minister, you have to comply with our value and definition of marriage. If you go and marry someone of the same gender, then you can't work here. Well, they say, if you do that, we're going to shut your church down.
Shut it down.
Shut it down. And it also applied to a Christian radio station that we defended as well. We went into court. We filed a motion for an injunction, and we prevailed. And the judge said, not only does this violate the state constitution, this violates the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment as well, the Religious Freedom Clause. So it was a wonderful success. But do you know what happened? After this passed, other towns in Wisconsin had already passed this. This was already spreading. And this was in Wisconsin, okay, not Seattle or New York City. So people need to realize how real this is. And that's why we at Pacific Justice Institute are committed to taking on every single one of these cases. We're very unique. We don't just take on a certain case here or there. We work hard to make sure everyone gets help, because all it takes is one of these fires to continue, and then it'll spread. Another case, San Rafael, talking about taxes.
Yeah.
They issued, this is near San Francisco, it's part of the explanation. San Rafael decided to issue a property tax against all churches and synagogues. And but they called it a per square foot building usage fee. So we went into court and we said, Your Honor, that's a property tax. And the judge realized that there's no limit on what they could tax if they get away with this. This little Baptist church, Valley Baptist Church, had to come up with $13,000 or the city was going to shut their doors permanently. We went into court, and thank the Lord for this one. The judge said this is unconstitutional, a violation of the state constitution, and it was halted. But if we hadn't halted it, make no mistake, other cities across the country whose city councilmen don't go to church regularly would likely quickly do the same thing to start gaining revenue and punishing churches who have a different worldview.
How can we help Pacific Justice Institute do the job that it does? Because you take on these cases pro bono, you help these people when they otherwise could never afford the legal assistance. How do we help you?
Well, thank you for asking that. We are a nonprofit organization. We do all our work without charge, all of it. Which
is amazing.
So yes, we have a huge network of hundreds of volunteer affiliate attorneys. That helps a considerable degree. So we appreciate attorneys who want to become a part of that team. We have 9 offices now in California. But we're also looking for expanding offices in other cities across the country. So if people say, hey, I'd like to have them come to my town, I think we can make it happen. They should contact us. And also, we're supported by moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas. George Soros, for some reason, doesn't want to give to us. I don't know.
I don't think you want to take his money.
Yeah, no, I don't. But moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, about 140 plus churches, and others, they support our work, and as a nonprofit ministry. And of course, we're very, very grateful to anyone who feels led to do so. They can go to our webpage, pacificjustice.org.